So, with the college football season rapidly approaching, we are still in the season of lists. And today, I want to take time to talk about two lists on 24/7 Sports. One of which assigns some of the top teams in the nation their percentage chance of making the college football playoffs, and then the other not only makes a projection as to which four teams will make the playoffs, but who will win and which two teams we could see in the national championship. And y'all don't want to miss this. But before we do, I really want to hear from y'all. Hop down in the comments, let me know which four teams you think are going to be in the college football playoffs, and then let me know which teams you think are going to be just outside looking in. I cannot wait to hear from y'all, and if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe. Hit that bell notification. I do constant college football content, and you don't want to miss any of it. But with that being said, let's talk about this list. And first and foremost, let's talk about the list, which ranks some of the top teams in the nation and their chance at making the college football playoff. And at number one in this list is the Clemson Tigers, with an 85% chance of making the playoffs. Number two is the Alabama Crimson Tide, with a 75.6% chance. Number three, the Oklahoma Sooners, with a 65% chance. Number four, Ohio State with a 64.1% chance. Georgia after with a 32.8% chance. Texas A&M coming after with a 14% chance. Iowa State follows with a 13.7% chance. Oregon is our first Pac-12 team, comes in with a 10% chance. And Notre Dame comes in with a 9% chance. So I really want to focus on the top four teams because the other list published also identified these teams, which are Clemson, Alabama, Ohio State, and Oklahoma in no particular order, to be the four teams that were projected to make the college football playoffs. And the first thing that stands out to me is just how high of a percentage chance Clemson has of making the college football playoffs. I think we can chalk that up to the ACC not being that strong top to bottom, though there are some good teams in the ACC. North Carolina looks to continue their good seasons. Miami looks to build upon what they've been doing the past few years. De'Aaron King coming back healthy. Though they match up with Alabama game one, they're still a solid team, one that looked to have a successful season. But the thing is neither of those teams play Clemson in the regular season. The only test Clemson will really face in the regular season that is of serious competition is Georgia, which really hits at a question I've been asking and y'all have heard me ask for quite some time, and I am really intrigued in y'all's answer. I've gotten yeses, I've gotten nos before, but let me know what you're thinking on this. With Clemson and Georgia being a really big game, especially for Clemson because the rest of their schedule isn't as strong as they would like it to be, if Clemson loses that game, does it matter if they win out? I really want to hear what y'all are thinking on that because I have ping-ponged back and forth on that question for some time. I think it really depends. One, how the rest of the ACC does. If Miami and North Carolina come out and they're really solid teams, have a really good year, and then Clemson is to beat them in the championship game, that I think creates a deeper argument. And then it also depends if Georgia wins that game, what Georgia does going forward. Georgia would play theoretically, let's say Alabama in the SEC championship game, and then that game would become even more important for both institutions, but it really poses an interesting scenario. Not only what happens to Clemson, but if we really break down what happens to Georgia, if Alabama goes through and plays Georgia in the SEC championship game and Alabama wins, then Alabama would be undefeated, Georgia having one loss to Alabama, but then also beating Clemson. Things could get murky really quickly in the college football playoff projection, but that's why I've really been so excited for that Georgia-Clemson game because I think so much rides on that, and I don't think it really has hit a lot of people yet how important that game is because so many questions need to be answered if Clemson is to drop that game to Georgia. Next, with Alabama, I think Alabama's chances at 75% are really high right now, and I think that shows you how much faith and how much talent is on that Alabama Crimson Tide team. Bryce Young looks to have a really successful first year as a starter, but that team is not short on talent, and that defense should be ferocious this year. So it makes sense that they would have the second highest percentage chance. Oklahoma coming in at third with a 65% chance, I think makes a lot of sense, especially when you look down on this list. Iowa State given a 13.7% chance to make the college football playoff, which really shows you how much these rankings respect Iowa State in this conversation, and really shows you that they think that that is Oklahoma's biggest test within the Big 12, which how could you really argue that? Iowa State returns a ton of talent, a ton of really solid talent at the quarterback position, at the linebacker position, at the running back position, and when you look top to bottom at that Iowa State team, they're well coached, they have a really veteran group, they're really solid, and I think that's going to be a phenomenally fun matchup to watch, Oklahoma versus Iowa State this year, and if I had to project, we're going to see that twice. twice, once in the regular season, once in the Big 12 championship, which hey, sign me up for that. I'm all for that. After Oklahoma comes in Ohio State at 64.1% chance, though Wisconsin is also on the list with about an 8% chance to make the college football playoff. I really don't know who outside of Wisconsin is going to challenge them. Michigan has a lot of questions I feel need to be answered, and there are a lot of solid programs in the Big Ten. I mean, the Big Ten is synonymous with just being really solid, but I think Ohio State is a bit ahead of everybody right now in terms of the talent they have and some key positions in which they're able to return some talent from last year. You know, when we get past those top four teams, now we're talking about Georgia, A&M, Iowa State, Oregon, Notre Dame, and then Wisconsin. Oregon being the only Pac-12 representative we're talking about today, having about a 10% chance to make it. Personally, I would love nothing more than the Pac-12 to have a really solid year and have multiple teams show that they are on the cusp of a resurgence, but I think we are still years out from that happening. Oregon has been recruiting at a phenomenal level. It needs to continue, but they are really doing a lot of good work right now at Oregon. I hope USC is able to continue trending in the right direction. We have a lot of questions heading into the season with the USC. We know they're recruiting well, but how will that translate to on-field? Slovis finished the year really well last year, but there are a lot of questions around Clay Helton, and this is a really important year for Helton and the Trojans to go out there and answer a lot of those questions, but hopefully those questions are answered with some positivity, because I would love nothing more than for USC to start showing glimmers of coming back. It would be good for college football. But this kind of bleeds me into the other list, which talks about the four teams that are projected to make the college football playoffs, being Clemson, Alabama, Oklahoma, and Ohio State, and then says which games they think they will play in, and even picks two teams to play in the national championship. And so with that, I want to talk about that, because I've really never given my four teams that I think are going to be in the college football playoffs, and spoiler, I think that this list gets it dead on. If you had to ask me right now the four teams I have going into the college football playoff, my four teams are going to be Alabama, Oklahoma, Clemson, and Ohio State in no particular order. Now, like I said to open this video, I do have massive questions about that Clemson-Georgia game, and if Georgia is to win that game, then I do believe Georgia will ultimately make the college football playoffs, but that remains to be seen. As we sit here right now, my four teams for the college football playoffs, once again, Alabama, Oklahoma, Clemson, and Ohio State. Now, 24/7 Sports in their other list took it a step further and actually matched them up, with Oklahoma and Clemson matching up in one playoff game and Alabama and Ohio State rematching in the other. Now, ultimately, 24/7 Sports had it pegged out that the Alabama Crimson Tide and the Oklahoma Sooners would play in the college football national championship, and what a matchup that would be. Oklahoma returning a really solid defense this year, one that looks to continue progressing and has a lot of really impressive athletes on it. Alabama, and once again, returning a defense, as I talked about earlier, that should be really elite, but the offense has all the potential to be a really special unit as well, and we already know what Oklahoma does with offense. They are synonymous with offensive success. So if that would be the game that ultimately got pitched out to be the national championship, and that's how it all the cards fell, what a game we would get. One that I would be incredibly excited to watch, because I think it would be incredibly entertaining to watch. Hop down to the comments. Let me know what four teams you think are going to make the college football playoffs first and foremost. Let me know what you think about that Georgia-Clemson game, because I've been ping-ponging back and forth on that, and I really want to hear from y'all what y'all believe will not only happen in that game, but then the results of what happens if either Georgia wins that game or Clemson wins that game, because that's when things get murky, and I really want to hear from y'all. Hop down in the comments. Let me know what you're thinking. That's it. See ya.